1 in 4. That's how many Americans support this war with Iran. 1 in 4. 87% of Democrats oppose it. Most Republicans are uneasy. The American people across the entire spectrum do not want this war. So who does? Because somebody spent $203 million making sure your Congress wanted it. Somebody made sure the vote to stop it failed by exactly the margin that they paid for. And somebody convinced an America First president to spend $11 billion in the first 6 days on a war that has nothing to do with America. That somebody is not American. And tonight I'm going to show you the receipts. I'm Ethan Page, always. Let's turn the pages. So let's establish what's actually happening, because this is all moving very, very fast. February 28th, 2026, the U.S. and Israel began joint strikes against Iran. The stated goals were regime change and ending Iran's, or Iran, depending on how you phrase it, nuclear and missile programs. Here's the part that matters. This came after negotiations in February, where the mediator from Oman said Iran was making concessions and real progress was happening. Trump did say that he was not thrilled with the talks, but the bombs fell anyway. I would like to stop right there. Iran was at the negotiating table. The mediator that they were working with, Oman, said that they were making concessions, and instead of taking the deal, we bombed them. When diplomacy is working and you still pick war anyway, the war was the point, not the outcome. It was the war itself. Now let's talk about what this costs you, because this is where it stops being a political thing and a left-right thing. It starts becoming personal. I'm going to have a link in the description. I'm going to have a link in the description, as always, discussing the things that we're talking about today. This is from Reuters. In the first 6 days of this war, it cost more than $11 billion. Then the Pentagon turned around and asked for $200 billion more. That's on top of an $840 billion investment that's a defense budget that they already passed. Now, I would like to put that into your terms. In 6 days, this is how quickly $11 billion goes. That would be roughly $33 out of every American's pocket gone in just one week, or under a week. That would be you getting takeout. I mean, that's a lot of things. We don't have to go down that rabbit hole. That's enough to wipe out student debt for hundreds of thousands of people. It's also free school lunches nationwide for years to come. They told you that there's no money for healthcare, no money for the border, no money to fix your own roads, but there was $11 billion in 6 days for Iran. The money was always there. They just decided that another country mattered more than you did. Now, when's the last time the government moved this fast and spent this freely on something that actually helped you? Take your time. Now, here's the kicker. Nobody wanted this. I'm going to pull up something right here. This is a Jewish-linked company. This is talking about an earlier... oh, shoot, it didn't come up on the right screen. This was talking about an earlier... So I'm going to pull up Jewish Currents here. This is going to talk about one of the statistics I talked about at the very start of this episode. Try to get this to fit in the screen here. So this is a Washington Post poll. It found that 87% of Democrats do not support this war. They directly oppose it. Only about 1 in 4 Americans support it overall. This is one of the most unpopular wars in modern American history, and it's not even fully kicked off yet. Now, think about how broken our country is right now. We agree on nothing. Half of us can't stand the other half, and yet 3 out of 4 Americans agree that this war is wrong. That kind of agreement basically never happens, and the government did it anyway. So who are they listening to? Because it sure as hell isn't us. Now we're going to be quick today. I like that because it's been nice getting a couple of quicker episodes out. Allows me to get it quicker to you. We're going to go into chapter 2 right away. This is called the $203 million purchase of your Congress. Now, every number is going to be built in here. You can just go into the source notes for anything that you want corroborated. But if Americans don't want this war, how did it happen? I want you to follow the money. Always follow the money. You have AIPAC's tracker, which of course goes over all of this. I don't need to be redundant there. But AIPAC is the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, and its affiliated PACs have tracked spending to $203.7 million across 535 members of Congress. Now, we've already discussed it before, but that's almost every single member of the House and the Senate. There are 535 members that were funded. AIPAC money has touched essentially all of them. That's not lobbying, that's ownership. Now, in this election cycle alone, again, second link will be in the description. In this election cycle alone, they put $28 million. Excuse me, this should actually be, apologize. This should probably be the third link, not the second. But in this election cycle alone, they put $28 million directly into congressional campaigns. That's from FEC filings, that's from public record. You guys can merely search this and you'll find it. They opposed every diplomatic effort with Iran, and then they applauded the airstrikes that came afterwards. Now, here's what that'll really get you. AIPAC is a registered tax-exempt nonprofit, 501c4. They get tax benefits, meaning your tax dollars subsidize their existence, while they spend $28 million marching America into a war that 75% of us don't want. You are subsidizing the lobby that works against you. Now, here's the vote that proves it. I'm going to pull up this link just that way we have it. And again, as always, in the description. Here. This is called, this is from War Costs, excuse me. This is about the vote, how AIPAC shaped the path to war with Iran. Now, this was on March 1st. I'm going to try to find it if I can. A lot of numbers up front. There we go. So on March 1st, 2026, one day after Operation Epic Fury launched, Senators Tim Kaine and Rand Paul forced a vote on a war powers resolution to halt the unauthorized military action against Iran. The vote failed 53-47. Now, I want to note real quick, Rand Paul was the only Republican to vote yes. Now, a war powers resolution is Congress basically saying you need our permission to keep fighting. It failed by 6 votes, and the analysis showed virtually every senator who took significant AIPAC money voted to keep the war going. The war you didn't vote for was kept alive by senators funded by a foreign-aligned lobby. That's not a theory. That's a roll call vote that you can pull up yourself with footnotes and all sorts of paperwork to back it. Now, there's another statistic in here too that I'm going to try to find. I pulled it down real quick. There you go. So this is just a small footnote, but it's going to be a part of my bigger corroboration here. So they went 48 out of 48, literally 48-0. Everybody that they publicly funded in the last election cycle won. Nobody that they funded lost. It's pretty crazy. The reason why they want everybody to fall in line is because of that number right there, the 48-0. Everybody that they funded, they all go to the same meetings together. They have the same luncheons. They get together, and they all get on board with the same spark notes. What are we going to say to the public, guys? So that's one thing that we can all get online with. You can go on Track AIPAC with Twitter/X. I definitely recommend you all fund that or, follow that. There's been people that are on the Republican side of things right now calling for anybody who follows that X account to be banned from the platform. It's getting crazy out there. And again, it's Laura Loomer. She's one of Trump's best friends, her words. Now, okay, I already talked about that. I'm just going through my notes here. Yeah, again, not one loss that they had out of everybody that they funded. I want to highlight that again because that's ridiculous. 48-0 is a perfect record. I want you guys to think about what that does to a politician's brain. When they watch a lobby go 48-0, yeah, 48-0, they know that if they step out of line, they're going to become number 49 on the other end of it, right? They're going to be the example, the cautionary tale. So they shut up, they vote yes. The democracy didn't die in darkness. It got bought at wholesale, and the receipt is sadly public record. Now, when somebody does step out of line, watch what happens. Jamal Bowman, for example, New York congressman, he criticized Israeli military operations. An AIPAC-aligned super PAC spent 5 times his entire campaign budget to destroy him. He lost. The ads never even mentioned Israel. They called him too progressive. The real reason was buried. Cori Bush in Missouri, same exact playbook, gone. I've mentioned both of these people on the podcast before. They don't even tell you why they're ending a career. The ads say too progressive or soft on crime. The real reason almost every single time is the politician asked too many questions about Israel. 2 of the most prominent progressives in Congress were erased, and the voters never even knew the real reason. Now we're gonna get into chapter 3, which is the America First, except when it isn't. Okay. Now I want to talk to the America First crowd directly here when we get into this, because you guys are promised something, and I want to ask if you got it. Now these are people, for those watching and listening, these are people far to the right of me, right? You guys see the hair. I might smoke a little bit of weed. I might eat a little bit of mushrooms, but I also like guns, and I don't like paying taxes. Right? I'm pretty in the middle. But those much further to the right than me, they're the America First guys. They're basically to whitewash their narrative a little bit, because some of them are a little racist, right? But most of the America Firsters just believe if it doesn't involve America, I don't want to be involved, and I don't care. And to be a little bit brash, I guess you'd say, I am also of that opinion sometimes. Just because I see the writing on the wall. There's so much debt. We can't keep doing this, dude. We can't keep sustaining the world's economy by doing all the endless wars and having bases everywhere and just doing what we're currently doing. It's not working. I think we need to make more diplomacy and let local governments figure things out, both in America and overseas. Let the Middle East figure out what the Middle East needs to do, and let my state figure out what my state needs to do. Kind of a good way to put that. But for the America First crowd, please listen up. You guys were promised no more endless wars, no more being the world's policemen, no more American blood and treasure for other countries' problems, and that was the deal. That's what a lot of you guys voted for twice. Some of you guys technically voted for it 3 times, but it's, it wasn't necessarily his campaign the first time around. But explain this to me. How is bombing Iran, a country that didn't attack us and that was at the table making concessions, America First? How is $11 billion in 6 days America First? How is risking a regional war America First? It's not. It's actually the opposite of everything America First was supposed to mean. And if you're honest with yourself, I think you already knew that. And here's the moment that gives the game away. Sorry, I had to scroll down. Trump's own envoy, Steve Witkoff, stood at the AIPAC conference and said, quote, "The U.S. and Israel are united in purpose." That was 4 days before the bombs fell. United in whose purpose? because it wasn't the purpose of 75% of Americans who didn't want this. It was AIPAC's purpose. The president's envoy said it out loud on their stage at their conference 4 days before we went to war. Now, I don't want to ostracize a good chunk of my viewers when I say this, because loving the quiet part out loud, a good chunk of you are at retirement age, and I respect all of your guys' time. But you guys are a good chunk of the 25% that wants the war. And it's not even necessarily your fault. It's decades of propaganda that was used against you. That's why I'm trying to unpack it as much as I can. This isn't a situation that we should be engaging in any further. Netanyahu's on record saying before I was even alive that Iran was only 2 weeks away from getting a nuclear bomb. That's true. You can find clips of it all over YouTube. I'm not going to make a montage of doing it because every time I post historical footage, I get a clip like strike on my account. I haven't figured that out yet. We're going to work through that. So, in the meantime, you gave that a quick Google. It's right there. It's all over Twitter. It's all over YouTube. Netanyahu's been saying this since 1994 and 1996, depending on which verbiage you're looking at. He's been saying it for over 30 years. I'm only 28. He's been saying it a month away, 2 weeks away, 6 months away, a year away, 18 months away. He uses arbitrary terms every single time. So again, to get back to my point, of the 25% of Americans that want this war, the majority are elders. So if you see this video, please tell your friends. Tell them to share it. Tell them to watch it. I don't want to plug myself. You don't even have to watch me. Watch somebody bigger than me. Let them explain it to you that's better than I am. But please, get off the Trump train. Get off the Israel train. A forever reminder, if you are a new viewer, I am Jewish. I'm telling you, you don't have to support Israel at all. Please do not support Israel. They are a terrible country. Okay, now that we've got that out. None of this is new. There's a document from 1996 called the Clean Break, which is not the same as what I was talking about with Netanyahu, but it's very similar. Now, this was written for an Israeli prime minister by American policy figures who later ran U.S. foreign policy. It laid out a plan: remove Saddam in Iraq, weaken Syria, and ultimately confront Iran. Iran was step one. Iran was always the final boss, though. The plan to do this was written in 1996 for a foreign government by people who go on to run American foreign policy. We have been executing a 30-year-old foreign policy or foreign war policy plan and calling it American the whole time. Rahm Emanuel, a guy who literally volunteered for the Israeli military in 1991, just said, quote, "The days of taxpayers subsidizing Israel militarily, that's over. No more financial aid." He added the U.S. should never spill any blood for the state of Israel's security. Now, when a man who volunteered for the Israeli army is saying we should never spill American blood for Israel, this isn't fringe anymore. This isn't anti-Semitism. This is Americans across the entire spectrum waking up to the fact that we've been fighting somebody else's wars with our money and our kids for decades. Now we're going to get into probably your guys' favorite clip of the whole episode, hopefully. This is chapter 4. This is about Taco, the president who can't hold a position. Now, I want to just make a quick segue here. I just learned about this. I didn't know about this, but you guys got some nicknames. You guys got some nicknames for Trump. This is what Trump's known on Wall Street. Okay? I'm going to let it build. I want you guys to step away from the money with me, because this next part should bother you. Wall Street has a nickname for Trump. It's called Taco. It stands for Trump always chickens out, which translated basically means he is so predictable, Wall Street's making money off of his instability. So we're going to pull up Reuters here. Let me see if it says it in the name. Oh, shoot, it doesn't. Oh, okay. It says it in the article. Good. I thought it would said it in either the article or the title. I just didn't know which one it was. Okay. So right here, this is an article from AOL right here with Reuters. Sorry, it's Reuters article published by AOL. So here it is. He's just getting made fun of in the article itself, and it literally just says Trump always chickens out. Now, this time that he's done this is ridiculous. There's people who have actually counted and done a full timeline on this. I forgot if I put it in my notes. Yeah, okay. Okay, I put just a couple of examples in here too, but at time of recording, I believe he's currently tacoed over 40 times in relation to Iran. So when you look at this situation at full, that's 40 data points of times where people on Wall Street are making big money, your gas tank is getting crippled, and there's nothing that we can do on the small scale. Us on the small us small fries, if you will. We can't do anything to stop it. Now, when the financial markets, people who win or lose millions of dollars predicting your next move, give you a nickname that means you always chicken out, that's not really an insult. That's actually a risk assessment. The markets have officially priced in the fact that the president's word means nothing. That's bad for all of us. People who are the most communist, people who hate Trump, people who want Trump dead. A president that reneges on his position is completely bad for you. And I hope you realize that. But before I go down that rabbit hole, let me just go down the documented pattern that's pretty brief here of him doing this. So we have Open Magazine, which is the full flip-flop timeline. So if you guys want this, of course, it's going to be linked for you. You guys are going to be able to read it further. But I just want to give you a few examples from the full timeline here. So on March 21st, he threatened to obliterate Iranian power plants across the Gulf unless the Strait of Hormuz was reopened in 48 hours. And then 48 hours later, on March 23rd, he announces a pause, says talks are productive, and then adds, if they fail, we'll just keep bombing our little hearts out. The literal next day, he then says negotiations are doing extremely well. And that same day, Iran's parliament speaker publicly says that there's actually no negotiations happening. 48 hours later, on the 26th, he flips again, calls the Iranians strange, and says that they're begging. So, threat, pause, victory lap, threat again, all in, what is that, 120 hours? He said talks were going extremely well, and his own enemies said publicly, we're not even talking. The president got contradicted by Iran about whether they were in a room together. And he just moved on like he never even said it. Now, the whiplash is unreal. This is roughly the same news cycle. He also threatened, get out of here. He also threatened that he would, that a whole civilization would die and that he would bomb Iran back to the Stone Age. Then hours later, he declared a ceasefire and started talking about a golden age of the Middle East. So he went from the Stone Age to the Golden Age. From a whole civilization will die to the Golden Age of the Middle East in one news cycle, 48 hours. That's not strategy. That's not 4D chess. That is a man threatening to erase a civilization. That's genocidal rhetoric in one day, and then promising a golden era, utopia, the next. He has no idea what he's doing. And he's doing it with your military and with your money. Here, let me get that next link up. Now, here's how you know. Here's how you know it's real. Even Fox News is writing about his flip-flops. And now, of course, I'm sure halfway through the article, they come up with a 4D chess explanation as to why. But the mere fact that they're acknowledging it says a lot. But look at the subtext here. a president who sees the world as he wants it to be. You can tell the author, even the author with Fox News, Howard Kurtz, he's kind of stating, we have this outside looking in perspective with Trump, right? Now, after a U.S. helicopter got shot down and both sides are training attacks, Trump kept insisting that there was a ceasefire that plainly was just not holding. When reporters pushed him on it, he didn't explain the reversals. He blamed fake news and called the media crooked. Now, when Fox News is writing about your flip-flops, you've lost the plot. His answer wasn't to explain himself. It was to get mad that people noticed. He didn't dispute the flip-flops. He disputed that you were allowed to see them. Now, here's my honest take. And I don't really care what party you're in. I just want to state that now before we get in here. I don't really care what party you're in. A commander-in-chief who reserves himself this many times reverses himself. Duh. A commander-in-chief who reverses himself this many times in this short a span isn't leading a war. I want you guys to go back to the George Washington era. Delaware River, right? That might have been propaganda. I don't know. But let's go back to it. George Washington. That's a man that led this country. That's a man that made this country, quite literally. Here's my take. He's not leading a war, Donald Trump. He is improvising one. Our enemies can't predict him. Neither can our troops, neither can our allies, neither can you. The only people who can predict these people right now, or predict Trump right now, is the stock market, which is where all of Trump's friends are involved. As always, follow the money, right? The most powerful military on earth is being steered by a man whose only consistency is inconsistency. That is not strength. That is chaos with nuclear stakes. Every person watching this, left or right, should be scared of that regardless of how you feel about the man individually. Forget Trump for 1 second. Would you follow any leader, a boss, a coach, a general, a friend, who changed his mind this many times while people's lives were on the line? You wouldn't. So why do we accept it in the one job where the stakes are arguably the highest on earth? We're going to get into chapter 5 while that brews for a moment. Chapter 5, the deal that proves the whole point. Now, this is updated as of today. Okay, good. So I just wanted to make sure. Good. Now, today is June 22nd, depending on when I get this, edited and posted, right? So June 22nd at time of filming. I'm looking up at the clock here in the corner. Now here's the part that ties the entire episode together. Because while this war was happening, they signed a deal. And the deal proves every point that I just made. CNN's got the whole link here. As always, I'll put it in the description. Don't you hold me to it. I'm going to put it right here so you know what to look for. Okay? Make sure you're following along. Right. By the way, this right here is a big propaganda building. This building right here is where Iran flies all of their propaganda posters. And some of them are bangers. Dude. They have some good ones, like where they've depicted Donald Trump with a bandage over his mouth. It's the Strait of Hormuz. Oh my God, it's really good. Really good artwork. I'm not even going to lie. I don't want anybody to try to say, oh, you freaking like Iran. No, don't do that. It's not like that. But it is a pretty cool piece of art if you're looking at things from just a third-party perspective. Anyway, back to the point at hand. This was on Wednesday of last week. So yeah, updated June 17th, 5 days ago. Wednesday of last week, they revealed the official text of what happened. Now, they signed a 14-point memorandum of understanding. It's an MOU, just that way you are on board when you read these later on, because it's going to be sprinkled throughout here in the article. They just say MOU, right? So when you read that, that's what it is. It's a memorandum of understanding Trump literally signed this at the Palace of Versailles in France. You guys don't need me to give you an education spiel of what happens at the Palace of Versailles, right? It's got historical significance to begin with. But to summarize some of these points, because it's lengthy, it opens the Strait of Hormuz toll-free within 30 days. It lifts the U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports. It unfreezes Iranian assets. Reporting says up to $25 billion. It suspends oil sanctions and lets Iran sell its oil freely again. And it sets up a fund of at least $300 billion for Iran's reconstruction and economic development. I didn't write a note about this, but I want to compare that to Obama. Everybody said Obama was doing the whole pallets of cash to the Taliban because we gave Iran $2 billion of their own money that we owed them since the 70s in cash. Trump just did more than 150 times that. So I don't want to hear no yip yap from those right of me saying that Trump made a good decision. Objectively, that is false information. Please stay on task. Now, I want you guys to read those terms back to me. Excuse me, there's one more. I'm sorry. It also starts a 60-day clock to negotiate the nuclear program, which J.D. Vance has said as of this morning, Monday, June 22nd, things are starting to make some headway. Not a direct quote, that's me paraphrasing. Things are starting to make some headway. Keep tuning in throughout the week. I think things are going to look pretty good as far as that nuclear deal goes. But besides the point, Obama honestly had a pretty good plan. If Trump didn't scrap it back during his first term and instead built upon it, we could have been making really good progress in the meantime. But instead, he pulled out. We had 7 years of lull, and now we're back in with a weird plan that's not solidified yet. So that's the stressful part. Now, I want you guys to read the terms back to me. We're going to open the strait. We're going to lift the blockade, unfreeze 25 bill, lift the sanctions, and set up 300 bill reconstruction fund. We bombed this country for over 100 days. And a reminder that on day one, we bombed a school that killed 165 women. 165 young women, by the way, that haven't had their rights to an education very long in that country. Let's be frank for a moment. This is a country that very recently only started letting women go to school to begin with. America just blew them up with an AI derided program. Okay, I'm going to get all sorts of passionate. AI told them what to bomb and we blew up a school. So that's day one of this war. It's only been downhill from there, in my opinion. But the deal at the end has us helping pay to rebuild the thing we messed up. So what was the war for? Thousands of people died to arrive at a deal that was already at the table or on the table in February. Now, you want to know how Trump announced the end of this war? His exact words on Truth Social, quote, "Ships of the world, start your engines, let the oil flow." Not, we achieve peace. Not, we honor the dead. He basically made an Indy 500 reference. Now, ships of the world, start your engines, let the oil flow. That's how he announced the end of the war that killed thousands. Like I said, it's like he's waving the green flag at an Indy race. Not one word about the dead. That tells you exactly what this was always about. The strait, the oil, and the money. And here's where we are as of right now, the day I'm recording this. So the first round of formal talks just wrapped in Switzerland this morning, June 22nd, which I talked about briefly. J.D. Vance was already speaking about it. He agreed to a roadmap for a final deal within 60 days. Iran agreed to let nuclear inspectors back in. Oh, shoot. I should have this up, too. We should have a good link for this. This is from NPR. Link in description. Um, there it is, Mr. Vance, right there, because he was the one speaking about it. Now, I'm gonna spare all opinions, left, right, center of JD Vance because he's just the one talking about this kind of stuff. So I just want to listen to what he has to say, right? Iran agreed to let nuclear inspectors back in. Vance called it a major milestone, but the ink isn't even dry yet, and it's already fraying. Israel and Hezbollah were trading heavy fire all weekend. At least 16 people were killed in airstrikes in Lebanon on Saturday, including civilians. And what I'll also say too is we penned this deal without Israel involved. Netanyahu was not even involved at all. JD Vance had some chirp to say about Netanyahu, and we might get into that a little bit later. But to summarize it briefly, he basically just said Israel better not bite the hand that feeds us or feeds them. And I agree. So Iran announced it closed the Strait of Hormuz again on Saturday, which was the 20th. The U.S. says it's still open. So they can't even agree. They can't even agree on whether the central term of the deal is being honored. And Trump has already said that he'll bomb the hell out of them if Iran violates it. So we have a peace deal where one side says the strait is closed and the other says it's open, where the bombs are still falling in Lebanon and where the president is already threatening to restart the war. That's not peace, that's a pause. And here's my prediction. If this thing collapses and the bombs start again, it won't be because peace failed. It'll be because the same people who wanted this war in the first place never got what they wanted out of it, and they never wanted it to end. Watch who pushes to break it. That'll tell you everything. At the time that I'm recording this right now, Israel is engaging in a militaristic battle on the southern fronts of Lebanon. Well, maybe not literally right now. I don't know what time it is in Tel Aviv, but at the time of this recording, they're engaging in a military battle with Lebanon, southern Lebanon. That'll tell you everything. Chapter 6, the things that they don't want you to connect. Okay, so I want to go over the hypocrisy. We sanctioned Russia, crippled the whole economy for interfering in our elections. We called a foreign power influencing American democracy an act of war. AIPAC spent $203 million across 535 members of Congress. Where are the sanctions? Where is the outrage? When Russia does it, it's an attack on democracy. When Israel does it, it's just lobbying. Right? Now, the next one I want to go over too is the FARA question. There's a law called FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act. It's the law that put Paul Manafort in prison. I've talked about him a lot. We don't need to talk about him more. But it says if you're lobbying for a foreign interest, you have to register as a foreign agent. AIPAC has dodged registering under FARA for decades. Because if they registered as what they functionally are, a foreign influence operation, their whole game would be exposed. So they don't. And nobody makes them. Now, the media silence. Do you guys notice anything? The biggest dollar influence operation in American political history, and your nightly news will not touch it. They'll spend a week on a Russian Facebook troll farm that spent a few $100,000. They will not give 5 minutes to a $203 million operation that helped start a war. Ask yourself why the people paid to inform you are so quiet about this one specific thing. Now, we're bombing Iran to stop them from maybe getting a nuke. Meanwhile, Israel has nukes, built partly with uranium stolen from American soil, which I covered in another episode, and they've never signed the nuclear non-proliferation. I can't talk today. They never signed the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. So one country can't be allowed to have them, and the other country secretly built them with our own material, killed our president in the meantime, and we send $1 billion. Same exact region, opposite rules. Somebody explain that to me. And real people are dying. Iranian civilians are being killed by cluster munitions. Israeli civilians are being killed in retaliation. American troops are being put in harm's way over a war that Congress never even declared. Over 3,000 people have died. Every one of those deaths traced back to a decision that 75% of Americans opposed, and a lobby that paid to make it happen anyway. My dog's downstairs just licking her chops, dude. I gotta yell at her every 2 minutes because she won't stop. And it's just me in a silent house and my dog licking herself. So you can imagine how that's just getting to me. Goodness gracious. Okay. Now, let me be as clear as I possibly can, because this is where people will try to twist my words. This is not about Jewish people. This is not about hating anyone. Most Jewish Americans actually oppose this war too. I'm one of them. This is about a foreign-aligned lobbying organization that has bought enough of our Congress to march us into a war that 3 out of 4 of us don't want. That is not anti-Semitism. That is a sovereignty question. The most basic one that there is, in fact. Does the United States government answer to the American people or to the highest bidder? Right now, the answer seems to be the highest bidder. And the highest bidder can't be us. They spent $203 million and went 48-0. They killed the war powers vote by 6. They put an envoy on an AIPAC stage 4 days before the bomb started falling. And they sent out the bill. $11 billion in 6 days to you. You weren't asked, you weren't consulted, you were billed. If that makes you angry, good. It should. Share this with one person who still thinks that this is our war. Because the second enough Americans see the receipts, that 48-0 streak starts to end. And so does this war. I'm Ethan Page. Let's turn the pages.